Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2007, it's a Toyota Camry, and we're going to be changing the front and rear brakes and rotors and the hardware kit. I did do the right side already, and I'm now going to start on the left side. The right side was extremely rusty. The rotor would not come off the vehicle. We needed to get in there with the bolt to get it to pull off. So we may be able to do the same thing on this side here. If not, we're going to use our heavy-duty puller made by OTC that pulls the rotors off without a problem. But we'll see how that goes. We are going to change the hardware kit, and we are going to change the brake pads, of course, and we're going to make sure that the slide pins slide properly, because if the slide pins don't slide properly, you're going to wind up with the brakes staying applied, and they're going to prematurely wear out, and we're going to be back in the same boat again. So we want to make sure that everything slides the way it's supposed to. I'm going to bring you up there. I'm going to show you what kind of tools you're going to need and what you're going to need to do to get the job done, and then we're going to do it together, and we'll get this job wrapped up. All right, let's get up there, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do, and then we're going to start. This is what we're going to be replacing. We're going to change the brake rotor, we're going to change the brake pads, and we are going to change the hardware kit that the brake pads actually rub up against. We will clean this rotor off with some brake cleaner just to get that oily residue off, and you can see I made a mess there as well. So we're going to clean that all off before we put it back on. Some synthetic brake grease, my favorite light by OTC, the OTC Spectrum. And this is what you're going to need. You're going to need a hammer to try to persuade the rotor to come off and possibly get the brake pads out, a small screwdriver, a very long ratchet. The longer the handle, the better off it's going to be. You'll get more leverage and you'll be able to break the bolts loose fairly easy. That is a 14 millimeter. That is a 17 millimeter. Now this one, you see I'm using the swivel head because it's easier to get in there. And this one we're using a regular ratchet that does not swivel because we need to actually have a little bit more torque to get that to pop off the bolts on the back of the mounting bracket. This wrench here is just in case we need to hold the slide pins so that we could take out those 14 millimeter bolts, but we'll see how it goes. I did not need this on the other side, but you never know. We're going to use a big screwdriver such as this to pry the brake pads back, or we're going to use a pry bar such as this to push the brake pads back a little bit. We'll see how that goes. A file to clean off any kind of rust on the mounting bracket itself. A tool like this to push the brake pads back in as far as they can go. I did need to use this on the other side. A hanger like this to hang the brake caliper while we're working, and some kind of a disc or something to clean off the actual hub where the rotor fits onto right inside here. We need to make sure that all that rust is off of there. So you're going to use this, or you're going to use a scraper, a razor blade, emery cloth, whatever. And this is very important because without that, we have to have a problem getting that rotor off. So we're going to screw this bolt. I'll show you. You see right here, you see that little threaded hole right there? We need to screw this bolt into that threaded hole, and that will pop that rotor off. Now, you see it's a little bit oily here. That's because I sprayed this up with some WD-40 just to get that to move a little better. So let me explain to you what we're going to do here now. Let's get some light so you can see what's going on. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to come in the back over here with the pry bar, and we're going to pry that rotor, we're going to pry those brake pads back into the bore as far as we possibly can. Once we do that, we're going to slide this caliper back and forth to make sure that these slide pins here are working properly, but we'll see how that goes. We're going to take out that 14 millimeter bolt there, and there's also another 14 millimeter bolt down here. We're going to take the caliper, hook it up over here onto the spring out of the way, and then we're going to remove this mounting bracket here. Now that mounting bracket we're going to remove by taking off that bolt down there. You can see that bolt. That's a 17 millimeter there. And we also have another one down the bottom. I don't know if you can see that right down here. We have another one. We're going to take that out as well. And then we'll take this mounting bracket off of the car and over to the bench here, and then we'll work on that. We're going to screw that bolt in here, and then we're going to pop that rotor off, and then we'll clean up that hub. So enough BS. Let's get started. We're going to take out those bolts in the back right there. All right. And once you break them loose, they usually come out fairly easy. Okay, you don't want to lose these bolts because you are going to need to reuse these again. So we're going to put these off to the side. All right, so we're going to hold on to these. We'll reuse these. Now we're going to take our caliper off to the side. Just like this. And you see that we're going to push that piston back in a little further, but we'll come back to that in just a minute. And now we're just going to hook the caliper up, just so it's out of our way. Now we're going to take out these little pieces right here. This piece here. You just get in here with the screwdriver, hold it, and we'll pull that out. The new kit, the new hardware kit did not come with new spreader clips, so we have to reuse these. Same thing here. All right, and this brake pad here, we're just going to pull this out. I'll show you what it looks like. You can see there's nothing left on that. It's destroyed. This customer was in last year, and I told them they needed brakes on it, and they never came back for it. All right, so pry out this one here as well. Maybe not. All right, we're going to have to persuade that with a hammer. All right, now we're going to use that 17 millimeter that we previously talked about. Right down on the bottom right here. The longer the ratchet, the more leverage you can get. Once you break them loose, they usually come out pretty easily, but if not, you'll have to use your ratchet to remove them. Now you broke them both loose. Before you took out the one on the bottom, you want to make sure your top one is loose as well. We'll take our mounting bracket off. And that's how tight this brake pad is. It gets rusted into the bracket. All right, we're going to come back to this later. We're going to replace this hardware over here, and we're going to make sure we get all this rust off of here, but we'll come back to this in just a minute. Okay, now we're going to take that rotor off. Now remember we talked about that bolt? It just screws right in here like this. And then we just turn this down until it touches. And then we just hold this with a screwdriver like this and turn it. You want to wear goggles because sometimes when you do this, the rust pops off of it. And that's it. Now, if that didn't work, there's other ways to do it. You can pound the heck out of it with a hammer and get it to move and everything. But here you don't have to break the coconuts. It comes off pretty easily when you have the right screw to screw into it. All right, this comes off. Now remember we talked about cleaning this hub up. Very important that that hub is spotless. You have to get all that rust off there, otherwise it's going to pulsate like crazy. So, all right, let me dispose of this and we'll come right back. Now, I'm going to use this disc to clean it up, but there's lots of different ways to do it. You want to wear eye protection for sure. Alright, so once we have this all cleaned up, we're we're going to take our rotor and we're going to get some brake cleaner. We're going to spray this down right here, just like this. And we just grab a rag and you want to clean it off to get most of the grease or oil off of it. And then we're going to put this back on. Okay, the reason you see me looking at this is I always try to line up these holes with where it was before I took it off. All right, we take a lug nut and just screw a lug nut on here to hold the rotor on the car while we're working. And then we're going to clean off here. Okay. All right, now we'll work on that on this caliper right here. Now, all right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this down here so we don't make a mess. Put that down there. And now we're going to take these clips out right here, just like this. Now, if you're not sure how to put these back on, just lay them someplace so you know exactly how they came off. Like that. Like that. Now, there's different ways you can clean these up. You can see there's a lot of rust in here. See how rusted that is? This is actually going to cause a problem with the new brake pads. They're going to wind up staying applied. So you can take a file like this and clean up all that rust on there, or emery cloth or whatever you have, but you need to clean up these mounting areas here where the hardware is going to go. So I'm going to clean this up on the machine over here. I have a grinding wheel, so we're going to clean this up. Once it's cleaned, then we'll come right back. All right? Now that we have it all cleaned up, we're just going to take a little bit of grease like this, and every place that that bracket is going to fit, we're going to put a little bit of grease, just like this, just to minimize the amount of rusting that'll take place in the future, just like that. And it makes it go on a little bit easier as well. Now, this is the bracket that came off that side. You want to make sure you get the correct bracket. You can see that's that. So this is not the one for this side. See how we match it up? Just to make sure it's exactly the same. So this is the correct bracket for that side. See? Just like that. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. We're going to take this bracket, match it up. That's the correct one. We're going to put this bracket on here. Now you can see that these are actually little clips that need to fit over it. This one is the one that you can push on to get it to pop in there tighter. So we're going to do that like this. And that's how it goes, just like that. All right? Now, we are going to do the same thing on this side over here as well. We're going to pop these out here, just like that. I'm going to take this back over to the bench and we're going to clean this up a little bit better. But I just want to show you this. These are your slide pins. This is very important that these pins slide. This is a little bit tight, so we're just going to pull it out just a little bit, each one. We're going to clean it up with some brake cleaner. We'll take out that pin. We'll clean it up. All right. Now, I recommend doing these one at a time because you can see this one has the O-ring on it. This one here does not. This way you don't put them in the wrong spot. And after you clean it, you put just a little bit of the silicone on here like this. A little bit on that rubber. You don't put any silicone on this end over here. Because if you put silicone in here, when you push this in, it's going to create an air pocket inside there and it's going to push this back out. So we'll take this now, put it back in here, turn it, and push it in, and just slide it back and forth until you can feel it lubricate the inside part. And then that rubber boot right there needs to pop back into that spot there. So you push it in till it pops in, and that's it. And you can see how that one slides nice and easy. And we'll do the exact same thing on this one. Okay, now we're going to take silicone, and every place that brake pad is going to touch, you put a little bit of silicone, just like this. So this way everything slides nice and freely. Same thing up here. Okay. Now you can put the brake pads in here, or you could put the brake pads in on the car itself. I like to put them on here because it's a little bit easier to get them back in. So we're going to take the brake pad now, and remember, when you put this pad in, you see this piece here, that's spring loaded. You need to actually push that down when you put the brake pad in. So we're going to do that nice and easy. Just like that, and that's how it goes. And do the exact same thing on this side. And that's what it looks like when the brake pads are in. Now, I am going to clean this up once I have it back on the car with some brake cleaner, but that's pretty much how it looks right there. We're not going to put these spreader clips back on yet. We'll do that later on the car itself. But now we're going to put this mounting bracket back onto the vehicle itself. So we take our brake mounting bracket, put it over the top like this, and you just have to wiggle it on there, get it down in place, squeeze the brake pads together, and then we're going to catch both of the bolts that we previously took out. Now before you tighten up the top bolt, you want to make sure both of the bolts are actually in. And you tighten them down as far as you can by hand. You're going to tighten up the bolts to 17 millimeters. We're going to tighten them up. All right, now next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our caliper like this, put it up over here, and then we're going to push that piston back in. The way that this works is we're going to screw this back out, of course, and now we're going to push that piston back in. Now, I use the old brake pads, but you could use the new pads if you wanted to as well. We're just going to put this piece in here just like this, and then we turn it, and then slowly pushes that piston back in. Now you don't have to kill it and try to overdo it. It'll push in nice and slowly. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this caliper. We're just going to put up the top bolt, just on the top. We're not going to install both of them. We're just going to put one in there for now, and I'll show you why. All right, just like that. And then we'll lift the caliper up like that. You know what? Let me move you again, a better spot. We'll put a little bit of silicone right here, just like this, right on the piston. And we'll put a little silicone right on the mounting part of the caliper itself, just like that. That's what's going to touch into the brake pad. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to take this and we're going to swing this down for a second. I'm not going to show you why. Okay. Now we're going to take these two clips right here. We're going to lift this up. I just wanted to swing this down to make sure it fit in okay, and it does. We're going to lift it back up like this. Let's get that light so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, we're going to take these pins and you're going to put them into those little tiny holes. Let me show you. You see on the brake pad, it's got that little tiny hole right there. We're going to put these back into that little hole right there. On the new brake pad, of course. Just like that. And like that. See how it goes? Just like that. Now I'm going to hold this with my hands because the spreader clips are going to make these brake pads pop out. So we're just going to hold it like this. And then we're going to take this one. I know it's a little tough to see this one. It sure as heck is tough for me to see it as well. And that's what they look like when they're put back in. Both of them are in there like that. And now what we'll do, we'll swing this caliper back down. And then you can let go of the brake pads because the caliper now holds them pads from popping out. And then we're going to catch the other bolt in here that we previously removed. And we can snug them down. Now, if you're trying to tighten up this caliper bolt right here and it spins, you would get in here with a wrench like this, like that, and you would hold the slide pin so it doesn't move, just like that, right? But that's not the case here. We shouldn't have a problem. And now we'll snug these down. Actually, we do have it. It is spinning a little bit. See? See how I'm trying to tighten it? And the slide pin is just turning. It's rotating. What you would do is just take your wrench, put it on here like this, and then you can tighten it up. Same thing on the bottom and down here. Now that one is not turning. I can feel that. And that's it. All right, so we're all set. Let's just talk about what we did. We cleaned up that face underneath here where this rotor was going to go. We actually made the holes line up with the previous spots that were on that hub already. So we put the rotor on. We cleaned the face of the rotor as well as the back of the rotor with brake cleaner. This lug nut, we are going to take this back off right now. We put our mounting bracket back on. We tightened up the 17mm bolt here and the one down on the bottom over here as well. We installed our new hardware kit. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch, including here, and also the piston in the back right there. We tightened up the 14mm here and the 14mm there, and we put our spreader clips back on as well. All right, so fronts are done. Now, I just want to point this out to you. If you stay with me just for the fronts, at this point you want to, if you're not staying with me for the back brakes, then at this point you want to get in the car, you want to pump that brake pedal and bring that pedal back up to the top. By pumping the brake pedal, it's pushing the piston back out until it comes in contact with the brake pad, and the brake pad comes in contact with the rotor, and then you'll have a nice firm pedal. It's normal for you to step on the brake pedal, and it goes to the floor 3 or 4 times, and then you'll feel the pedal comes up right up to the top. But that's it. You're all set then.